Congo. CS greetings, CSGOers and assorted esports fans. I'm Extremes, and this is CongoKyle on my right or my left, depending on if you're standing on your head or not. How's it going?
Oh, all right, man. Good to be back. This time talking about pretty much everything, not just upcoming matches and CSGO and teams and things that can get us into trouble. But we'll have to wait and see about that. But yeah, I'm just happy to be back.
Well, we might get ourselves in trouble. I mean, you and I both have a knack for that at various points through the journalism aspects of our career. Yes.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty quiet few weeks since we last chatted for me. I mean, it's pretty much just been, what was it? It was Mega 8, and then I haven't really done anything esportsy since then, except some writing here and there. But other than that, nothing.
Well, we'll get there, of course. But for the guys watching this who may not know who Congo is, well, then you have lived under a rock, a very sound insulated rock too, I might add. Congo's done some amazing CSGO casting. You've done a lot of Dota also. And I say some CS, but a lot of CS, let's be honest, the last couple of years. So, I mean, you've been a caster. You've been on desk panels as an analyst. You've been, content creator, podcaster, streamer, journalist, writer. I mean, you've done just about anything in esports.
Yeah. Jack of all trades, master of none, as I always say. Yeah, no, it's for me, it's just about keeping busy. And I think for me also it was like an attempt to find my niche, like where I fit in the most. But the crap thing about that is I haven't really done most of it other than obviously shoutcasting, most of it for long enough to get to a point where I'm like, this is where I want to be in esports. I mean, yes, I know where I want to be and what I want to do in esports. And, it's still looking at the industry and seeing it as infancy and being like, yeah, it's not really at the moment. I still got to keep doing this. I mean, keep casting, keep paneling, keep writing, because I
do anything you can do. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not about doing everything I can do for money. It's more that I want to be valuable, I think, in a sense, still valuable to the esports scene. And that's kind of why I've spread myself so thin, because there's a lot of areas I think that are still lacking in esports, a lot of places which need to be filled. And I'm trying my best to fill all of them until someone comes along and they're like, I'm not saying I'm the best in that position, but I'm saying what I'm trying to say is that it gets to a point where people see what I'm doing and they come to me and they're like, cool, we want to do this as well. And I'm like, sweet, let's do it. And then, we've got 7 really really good journalists who are writing and investigating esports and looking into local esports. And we've got, 10 people doing like Extremes, like doing your videos and stuff like that. We've got a really good ecosystem of work going to, kind of filtering through the esports scene in South Africa. And then I think at that moment, then I'll finally be like, cool, now I can focus on what I really want to focus on.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is yet. I have an idea, but I don't know what it is yet. But I did, focus on something that would, both be lucrative and at the same time be I would say, fulfilling. Because at the end of the day, this is pretty much all about fulfillment.
Yeah, well, if the esports industry in South Africa gets to that point that you're mentioning there, where there's multiple people doing this, it means it's grown exponentially. So I kind of hope that comes sooner rather than later. But talking about fulfilling things, I mean, how did you get started in this whole esports thing? I gather you were a player in Warcraft 3 and then obviously the original Dota.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of started a very, very long time ago. I was never really into PC at all, not even consoles, not even into gaming at all. But I think it was back when I was about grade 6 or 7. A friend of mine up the road, he was in high school. They'd started the whole LANing thing, playing games like CS, Quake, Unreal Tournament, stuff like that. So I used to go up there and stay over there. And I didn't have a PC at the time. Didn't even have a computer at home. Very technologically impaired parents. And I would just go up there, and when guys would fall asleep, I'd jump on their PCs, play CS, play Unreal Tournament. I was never any good, but it was fun. And that's where I kind of got in. And eventually my parents got a PC. Then I started the whole LANing thing and hated Dota. Only played CS 1.6. And then I kind of got into Dota 1, Warcraft 3. And then that's when I met most of the guys I'm still mates with today. Still some of my closest friends playing Warcraft 3 Dota, got into the community, got really try to be as outspoken as I can. Didn't really compete much in Dota 1. Dota 2 came out after I played a little bit of StarCraft 2, not competitively, also just for fun on the side, and played a little bit of Heroes and Earth, a little bit of League of Legends, and then I moved into Dota 2. That's pretty much where everything went off. We made the team, our team name was K-Pop Legs. Very, very. Now looking back, very questionable name. It was myself, Zera, Seam, Flares, basically people who had keys, people that had beta keys at the time, and then they kind of went on, and I attempted the whole competitive thing there. We joined the DGL, stuff like that. I was more of a sub and or player at the time. And then one day I was subbed out of a match, and Ben Knoxville said to me, "Do you want to come cast with me? Try casting." So I was like, "Sure, I'll give it a bash." And after that, Polar Fluke, who doesn't really do much in esports anymore, though he has vowed to come back. People might remember Polar Fluke, Matt Merks. He's like, "Yeah, dude, your casting was pretty good. You should definitely look into that. Like, keep doing it." So then I got into it. And I pretty much was casting everything I can. Some of this is kind of similar to the stuff you see guys doing today, where they announce who wants me to cast their game, blah, 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 blah. That back then we didn't have like 4,000 member strong Facebook groups. We had everyone was on Steam, a couple people on Facebook. So what I did was I started casting any and every match I could. Did a lot of the DGL, did a lot of just random pubs. I got back then the Bravados and the Energies to play together, because the K-pop team eventually became the Energy team. I got them all. They play a match, they play a mix. I'd cast. I'm getting like all some of the players into cast with me. Like we'd have like 6 people casting together, just having a laugh, and it was good. Cool. And then when it got to the more tournament side, myself and Polar Fluke started the Sunday Evening Cup series, which was every Sunday we had about 10 to 12 teams competing for some small little prizes and stuff like that. And then what I'd do is Polar Fluke would stream the matches, but I would also guarantee that I had a lot of viewers on watching me. So I would literally have 2 full Steam accounts. Friends, I should trade people those cards. You can increase your friend list, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I would literally have like 200-300 people on each device, my laptop and my PC. And then what I'd do is I would message people individually. I would copy paste, not each individual message, but I'd copy paste messages to people, be like, "I'm casting now, come watch me." And I had my own channel on the Dota 2 client, like a channel called Congo, which had a couple of people in there, and they could watch off me. So I literally had people coming and watching game, and we used to average like something like I think between 100 150 viewers in game, and then get like 80 to 90 on the stream. I mean, this was back in early 2013, in 2012. So, I mean, that was like back then to get those kind of numbers. And for me, that was awesome. And then I did Dota 2, kept on casting Dota 2 throughout the whole of 2013, moved to Cape Town 2014, continued casting. I mean, I had a lot of promises and stuff made to me in 2014 about where my life was going, where my career was going, a lot of people interested in working with me. And that all fell through. So I just carried on casting throughout the whole of 2014, stuck with Dota 2. And that's pretty much how I got into it. It was just someone said to me, you're okay. You can do better, but you're okay. And
you're okay.
There's no one else doing this right now.
That's the confidence booster, right? You're okay.
No, they seemed happy. I mean, they flew me up to they didn't fly me to Johannesburg. There wasn't much money back then, so I actually had to get on a bus.
Oh, my word, dude.
It was horrible.
How long does that take?
God, it was like 14 hours or something ridiculous like that. So anyway, I got on a bus. Flew up. I drove up to Johannesburg for the StarCraft 2 Invitational, the launch of Heroes of the Storm, Heart of the Swarm. And they said to me, do you want to come cast StarCraft 2? So I was like, okay. So I went up there in the bus, got there, went and met with the whole Megarom crew. Really awesome guys. Some guys I'm still friends with today and still close with today. This was at Polar Fluke's he suggested that I come up and do this, and then they brought me up for that. And that's where I met all the guys from Steel Series. Cass at the time, who was going to become the owner of Energy Esports. This is long before Energy Esports. Fluke, Jason as well from Megarom. All these guys that are still friends of mine and still chat to them, and they got me involved in Steel Series. Back then it was Alan, who now doesn't work for Megarom anymore. He was the Steel Series rep for SA. He got me involved in Steel Series. It was my first ever like sponsorship. This was back in 2013. It was actually roughly, I'd say about 4 years ago. Yeah, it was in April 2013 that I joined Steel Series. And it was great. I mean, it wasn't a paid sponsorship. It was basically every time there was new gear, they'd send it to me. I'd use it. I'd talk about it, promote it on my Facebook page, all that jazz. And it was awesome. It lasted all the way up until last year. Yeah.
Wow.
All the way up until
Pretty
last
long
year.
One, eh?
Right before I joined ASUS. Yeah. I stopped with Steel Series. And it was awesome. That was gave me my start, Then it was like I eventually met the Steel Series guys again when they came to South Africa when I met them, and then I went up again to Denmark and I met them. So it was awesome being part of that, being part of a brand like Steel Series. So it always was one of my preferred brands. And yeah, that's where it kind of just kicked off from there. And then obviously it was into CS and some international stuff.
Yeah, well, before we go to CS, let's go into that international part of it pretty quickly. I mean, it was international Dota 2 casting. Of course, you also kind of got there in CS, which we'll get to. But tell us a bit about what was going on in Dota for you internationally.
Dota was it was actually quite interesting. It was someone who watched my streams, because back then we used to put the games on Dota 2 Lounge. Obviously, people would bet skins and stuff like that. And someone got my contact. Guy from the Philippines. I still have him on my friends on my Facebook today. A guy by the name of Nico. He actually is quite a big caster in the Philippines right now. I think probably one of the most popular casters in the Philippines, Wolmarans Combo. I think it was him that gave my contact to a guy by the name of Master Raymond, who back then was running a lot of the Southeast Asian qualifiers there as well. And he got me in contact with them. And then that was for one separate thing. And then, the other thing was, okay, right, I actually forgot about this. I made a post on Reddit introducing myself as an aspiring caster, a young, naive little caster who was interested in casting international. And I got in contact with Blaze, a guy by the name of Blaze, David Dillon, I think his name was, Blaze. I don't think he casts much anymore, but I got in contact with him, and he offered to cast with me. And then we did a couple of casts together for some North American tournaments. Then I got messages for doing tournaments in Canada as well. But I mean, that was horrible because it was like 5 a.m. I mean, I was already staying awake all night just because I was gaming all night. I mean, back then, at that time, my university career was all but dead. I was preparing to move to Cape Town. I was literally just casting casting from 4 to 5 in the morning, and that was it. China. Then I did a tournament in China with Blaze. Was it Blaze or was it someone else? We did Chinese tournament. I think our biggest game I ever did internationally was IG versus LGD. That was my biggest game I ever did in Dota 2. Other than that, it was just smaller Southeast Asian teams and stuff like that. But it was a good month or two. I think it was about 3 months casting for Gosu Gamers, and I mean it was paid as well, which is fantastic.
Cool. Yeah,
it was paid, and it was in dollars. So, but it went to a PayPal account, and back then you couldn't extract the money out of PayPal.
Yeah,
so
I remember that pain.
I literally had just dollars, like a couple of $100 lying in my PayPal account, which I eventually used to buy like Steam stuff. Like I bought Steam games and skins like that. So it was pretty much not a waste for me, but it just wasn't just sat in that PayPal account. Then a few years ago, FME bought out the whole PayPal thing. But anyway.
Yeah, if only it existed then, eh?
Yeah, if it existed then, I could have made a nice little pretty penny. But a lot of my money was being spent on Dota skins at the time. So, I mean, at the end, it was pretty much worth it. But yeah, that was the international Dota casting. And it started growing quite a bit. It was actually quite a lot of fun. But then I just turned around and I said to the Gosu Gamer guys, I was like, the timing is just not right. Like I needed to start making actual money, and although them sponsoring me skins through PayPal was great, I wanted European games first of all. I wanted to be more based in Europe, so the timing was 1 or 2 hours behind, and I also wanted to be paid in some way that I can put it into my bank account and actually afford rent, and
which is nice.
Yeah, and it just kind of I can't remember exactly what happened, but it just kind of fell through, and then that was 2014 when I stopped international casting. I think a lot of it was also that I started working for Mweb as a tournament administrator, kind of journalist, all that stuff for them. It was a cool job. It was an okay job. It was fun for the first few months when we did the MSI Beat It competition, which was also great. But then it just kind of became, I became a little bit complacent, became a bit lazy, and I wasn't really enjoying it much anymore. I loved the people I worked with, but I just didn't love the work I was doing. That was the issue for me. But it led me down the journalism path, which is pretty cool.
Well, let's get into that journalism path a bit. I mean, you were with Mweb. I still remember enjoying very much playing on your headshot only server in 2014, 2015. It was rather lovely, and it was the only one that I knew of that existed. I think only in the last couple of months, Linus from SAGC has put up a headshot only server, which now was popular for a bit, and now people don't play on it anymore. But
yeah, Mweb had some great servers. I mean, that was one of the things as well. When I kind of moved in there, they were focusing a lot on Call of Duty console, which is great. I mean, it is still to this day a very untapped market. I think it's just the ACGL who do a lot of Call of Duty console stuff, but they were focusing a lot on Call of Duty. So I kind of pushed them towards maybe doing something Dota. That's where we got involved with MSI, did the MSI beta competition. Then I kind of pushed them to include CS:GO as well in their big Masters, their big Mweb Game Zone Master Series, which I think was awesome as well. We had a pretty nice little LAN down in Cape Town, players playing in the big auditorium there. That was pretty awesome. So but
I played in that tournament, but I didn't make it to the LAN.
It was awesome. Like it was a good vibe. But then after those two things ended, that I started working there in I think it was June 2013, and those tournaments took place. Sorry, 2014. Those tournaments took place like near the end of 2014, and after that there was really nothing left for me to do. I wanted to stream for them, but the hours are just weird. It was like streaming 3:00 in the afternoon. No one really watches that time, so it was just finding I was in a weird position because there weren't any tournaments to administrate. There weren't. So that's when the whole journalism kicked in. Like obviously part of my job detail back then was to write an article a day for the Mweb Game Zone and focus primarily on esports, sometimes a little bit of gaming here and there, but I used to struggle. I don't know why I used to struggle, because now I write for Arena and I write for Critical Hit, and that's 2 esports pieces a day. And it's I would say out of my 5-day week, I would say 3 out of those 5 days finding content to write about is very easy. And back when I was at Mweb, I'd sit till like 11 o'clock in the morning, not having done a single piece of work, just looking for something to write about. Okay, a lot of it was rejected by the editor. I mean,
that doesn't always help.
I'm not going to go into that, but it wasn't the easiest editor to work under. But a lot of it was rejected by the editor, and I guess, like I said, I was a little bit complacent, a little bit lazy, and kind of wasn't what I hyped it up to be. Like I thought I was joining Mweb, I thought it was going to be huge, going to be big for my esports career, but it just wasn't. And then that's when I kind of got into that circle of Mweb. I stopped working for the DGL. I wasn't kind of a weird conflict of interest with Mweb and DGL. Obviously, working there, being a caster. I was now working a 9-to-5 job in the morning, and you get home, you don't really want to cast a tournament. You kind of just want to do nothing. You want to you want to just chill. You want to play games. I didn't have a girlfriend at that time, so literally my life was work and gaming, and it was amazing. For a whole year, I did nothing but work and game, and it was fun. But then that kind of put me into that whole, what the fuck am I doing? Like, why am I working this? I mean, I don't want to do a 9-to-5 job. I want to do esports. I want to cast. I want to do this. And that's when I left Mweb in 2015. They offered me, they asked, do I want to stay on for like another 6 months, blah, blah, blah. And I said, thank you, but no, thank you. I went back to PE for like a month or 2. And then I decided, that's when I started working for Critical Hit. I got a message from Gavin.
It was Lazy Gamer at the time, right?
Yeah, Lazy Gamer at the time. I got a message from Gavin asking me, well, actually it was while I was still working for him, he messaged me and asked me, I think it was while I was still working for them, he asked me about would I ever be interested in joining Critical Hit or joining Lazy Gamer, and I said, yeah, for sure. Because what I love about Lazy Gamer or Critical Hit is that they have a very, very responsive audience. Like you write an article, if you write a good article, you're guaranteed to get a couple of comments. Like unfortunately for them, a lot of their readers aren't big esports fans, so I've kind of been trying to
casual audience.
Yeah, it's more they like the gaming, and now with the merge with other magazines to form Critical Hit, the movie side, the board game side, the comic side, and that sort of stuff. The audience has grown largely, but esports still remains this little bubble. Yeah. But it's great. I mean, I love the people I work with. I mean, that's one of the things. Like, if I had to now start working a different job, which was very demanding, if I had to now go work a 9-to-5 job, which is demanding every single day, I probably would still work for Critical Hit just because it's nice, and I enjoy the kind of journalism I write. Journalism in that company, there's a lot of people that are pretty opinionated, and even though they say they hate esports, they I even get told every day that they don't care about esports, but like my editor Jeff and Gavin's actually for someone who tells me he doesn't care about esports, Gavin is actually quite invested in a lot of the discussions that go on Twitter, Facebook, blah, blah, blah about esports. And I guess they're closet fans, put it that way. Both of them are closet fans, which makes my job really fun because, while they're not going to actively talk to me about it all the time, when I do bring up an interesting topic in the group chat on our group chat, there are some good discussions that come out of it. And that's something I enjoy. I mean, when I worked at Mweb, I worked under, Brad, obviously.
Yeah, I do.
Brad Kirby. I mean, I worked under him, and he was a great mentor, both him and Desmond Kurz. And that was a more personal thing for me because we would sit across from each other for 8 hours a day, and we just talk shit and have a good time. And I really enjoyed working under Brad, but it was a different sort of scenario. He wasn't my editor; he was my boss in a sense, both him and Des. So yeah, it was a really the move from Mweb to Lazy Gamer, then to Critical Hit was awesome. I've loved working for them, and I think, although I don't have a journalism degree, I think my writing has improved a lot. If I go look at some of the articles I wrote back at Mweb and look at the articles I've written in the last few months, I think there's quite a big leap in the kind of content I was putting out. And but yeah, some days you just you say to yourself, okay, you are in the camera.
Okay, we'll pretend we didn't see that. I'll edit it in post.
Okay, no problem.
No, I'm not going to do that. Sorry.
I just really enjoy the content. I mean, some days it is a bit of kind of legal paraphrasing in a sense that you're not going to copy paste someone else's article, but if it's an interesting news topic, and I think that's something just to bring up real quick in the whole journalism thing in South Africa is like people don't understand that. Yes, okay, you're seeing the same stories. We're writing on Reddit and stuff like that on HLTV, fair enough, but you have to understand that those magazines are on those international mail chains. They're getting the press releases sent to them the day before they go out with an embargo saying this must go out tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. We don't get that in South Africa. We rely on sort of secondhand news. Locally, even sometimes locally, like the amount of people that go live with press releases in South Africa that don't mail me first, it feels weird because who they send these press releases to? Like My Gaming, so they can write 3 lines of an article, 3 lines and post it as an article.
It's very strange.
But yeah, so people have to understand that journalism in this country for esports specifically, it's tough. Like I try to put a local flavor on all the pieces I write. Like if it's a piece about, college esports, I try to add like what sort of impact that would have on South Africa as if that was a program that happened down here. Like that's the kind of stuff I aim to do in most of my articles. But some days it's just I've got a busy day and it's just like, oh, here's some news on Overwatch, boom, put it up there, paraphrase it. Write about it, give it a little bit of opinion, and throw it out for the editing. And it's and people need to understand that journalism in this country is tough, even for general gaming. I mean, a lot of the pieces you see written on Mweb, Game Zone, Lazy Gamer, Critical Hit, My Gaming, a lot of that stuff is just so the same press releases they've been sent from international places, and it's all just regurgitated in different mediums. And you go look, you can see the exact same pieces on Polygon, the exact same pieces on GameSpot, like. It's just that's how the news works, but it's tailored to your audience. That's what I think. That's something I found in these last few years, or last year, or last few months of casting, is that you have to find your own kind of flavor when it comes to reporting and investigating and any sort of journalism, and that's what kind of made me really start enjoying it at the moment, writing for both Arena and Critical Hit.
Yeah, well, that's from my side as well. I mean, I've done a few slightly journalistic things. I don't really style myself as a journalist, yet some people seem to think I am. But I know the feeling, man. Like if I was in your position and I had to put something out every day for 2 different publications, I can see the problem. It's just so difficult to find something new and original, and of course. Finding something new original doesn't also mean that it's worthwhile news. I don't know if you have this, but I get sent a lot of information by people and they say, oh, write a story about this or do a video about this. And I look at it and go like, this is absolute shit. What would I do with this? And like, I don't want to say that to the guy. Like I'll go,
anyone who has sent Michael anything in the last few weeks, this is exactly what he thinks about it.
Yeah, exactly what I think of it.
No, it is tough. It is tough doing for 2 publications, but luckily Arena has its own audience and Cricket has its own audience. Whereas Arena's audience might care a lot more about esports. They might actually be following Arena simply for esports. That means when I can put out articles on Arena, they're heavily driven information pieces on esports with a little bit of opinion. Whereas with Critical Hits, it has to be tailored towards that kind of audience. If I want people to read it, I want people to comment on it. It has to
be carefully targeted. Yeah?
It has to be targeted almost towards their audience. And I mean, a lot of the pieces I write don't get a lot of traction. They get a lot of views, but they don't get a lot of comments, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of people reading them, but there's not a lot of people that have anything to say about them.
I think I've got the opposite issue actually. But,
more people commenting, like they read the headline of your post, and like, what the fuck is this guy saying?
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing. I just want to just point out for those people who may have sent me ideas of things to write about. I also do get a lot of good ones, but the problem is a lot of it also because of some of the political stuff behind the scenes, as you would know, Carl. Like, if I go out and say a particular thing, then I will no longer get hired by that guy, or I will be in a position where something else that I know is happening, I'm going to compromise, or there's all sorts of things here. So I mean, guys, you're welcome to send me information and send Carl information, but just to understand that there's more considerations to it than just whether it seems newsworthy or not.
I mean, that's kind of the piece I wrote yesterday was brought to me by one of the guys in the community brought forward the whole, what kind of impact do the communities have and all that jazz. And I mean, I could have written a lot more about it. There was actually still a lot of things I wanted to touch on.
Oh, you could have been way more savage. I would have liked a bit more savage there.
And I think I omitted quite a bit of information, which kind of would have led to a lot less backlash from some people in the community regarding what I thought of these impact these communities have on us. But yeah, you're damn right. It's like you can't. You have to be very careful about things you say these days. I mean, it is still a very fragile, very, very fragile community. And that's kind of how it's always been. Ever since going from casting Dota to CS, it's always been a very, very fragile community in the terms that your job is never guaranteed. Like back until now, I think until this point in time where we are right now with ESL, with Mega 8, with OCS, with DGL, up till now, they've never really valued talent. So you piss someone off, you're ostracized, you're out, you fuck off because they will not hire you anymore.
Been there.
Yeah, they will just not hire you anymore because you are outspoken. And the same thing with me with DGL. When I called them out right before they announced Masters, I think it was end of 2015, I said, nothing has changed in the DGL for 8 years. Nothing has changed. And then boom, Masters came out. I'm not saying they brought it. I'm not saying they said this like, fuck, Carl figured us out. Let's quickly put together a Masters program. And
that would have been amazing if it did.
That was the Masters program was in plan for a long time as well. But that, for me, when I brought that up, I mean, it was an opinion piece. I said, DGL has the biggest influence in tournaments in this country by far. They need to do more if they want to push this forward. And they didn't need to do more. They didn't need to do more at the time because they were still bringing in thousands of players every tournament season, and 10,000 players, whatever number they were pushing through to their execs. Like they were still bringing a lot of players, and no one was there to challenge them. So why should they increase their league size? I mean, now they announced the million rand thing. There came Middle State, the million rand thing. Then Arena's 1.7 million rand thing. There's ESL's, big ESL Africa thing. And now, now they're feeling the pressure now. So now they have to up the game, but back then they didn't have to, and that was actually one of the clearest examples. So what happened there is after I wrote that article, now DGL were a big part of my casting career in the beginning because they were one of the first companies to actually pay me. They flew me out to Rage, they paid me, they paid me a monthly salary to cast for them. It wasn't much as like 1,000 rand a month, something like that, to cast all the DGL games I could. And I was down for that because fuck yeah, I'm getting paid. Like, am I a professional now? I'm getting paid, whatever. I worked for the DGL, and I still maintained a good relationship with them. When I moved to Mweb, I kind of said to them, look guys, it's going to become a bit tough now. And then I wasn't invited to cast I think 2014. I didn't go. I went to Rage with Energy Esports, and I just looked after the HOTS team.
Are you bumping your mic there a bit, man?
Oh, sorry. I was just pulling on the cable again.
No worries, that's cool. Just in case.
And yeah, so I kind of left the DGL side, and then end of 2015 was when I wrote that article, and I'd never had any ill feelings towards anyone involved in the DGL. And then in the comment section, like Infeed just lost the plot completely, called me out on so many things, and that's just kind of takes us to the point where we get where I say, like, people are just they get their feelings hurt so quickly. I wasn't not in the article once did I bring up anything about Infeed, did I bring up anything about any member of the DGL, but because this was Infeed's kind of project, this was his livelihood, and I mean this kind of was birthed from his Clash of the Clans back in the day. This is kind of his baby, and I was now shitting all over it, and he took that as a personal attack. And that's something we were talking about off camera, was how people see these opinions, these kind of these statements we make regarding a player, a team, an organization, a tournament, a caster. They see it as personal attacks. Like if I had to say to you, like, you need to whatever, like I've said to you before, I still told you, I was like, awesome videos, just make them shorter. You didn't take that as a personal attack. You could have. You could have taken it away. It's like, oh, fuck, Carl's saying to me.
I don't know. I burn effigies of Congo and,
yeah. And then you could say to me, oh, fuck, Carl doesn't like listening to me for that long. He must think I'm shit. He must think I'm boring. You don't think like that because you know that, because we've spoken about it, that people get touched too easily when we bring up anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that kind of falls onto the journalism thing as well, because being a caster, first of all, if you say anything bad about someone in a cast, you're going to get a fucking an essay the next day on Steam, Facebook, who knows what, because
or a phone call. I've been there
or a
too.
phone call, yeah.
Yeah.
You've now impeded on their safe space, their little safe circle where no one could say bad things about them because they're trying really hard to be pro players. Like you can't be critical of that. When you write an article about it and you mention someone, I mean, the amount of articles I could have written. I mean, people have a lot of my mates make fun of my livelihood in terms of my writing. They say I have a copy paste job, but the amount of really good articles I could have written with stuff going on with players, stuff going on with teams, behind the scenes stuff. People seem to just tell me these things. Like a team will come to me and say, oh yeah, we're switching out these players and bringing this player. I'm like, that could make a fucking great article.
No, but you can't tell anybody.
I can't go write
that
it.
happens to me all the time as well. It's crazy, dude.
If I go write it, I would never mention them. Obviously, as a journalist, you don't never give away your sources, but people do tell me these things, and they're like off the record, don't say this, and I'm like, don't fucking tell me things if you're gonna, because that could actually make me a decent journalist if I'm going and telling people what these guys are saying to me, like what goes on behind the scenes with tournament hosts and stuff like that. If I go and spill these beans in my publications, like, people are going to be like, this is good journalism. But at the same time, I'm going to start being ostracized and not invited to events. And I mean, for me, that is a result of how thin I've had to spread myself in this esports community in terms of just, a lot of it has come down to, as I said earlier in the video, trying to find my place in esports. But at the same time, it's, just trying to get fucking paid.
Yeah, it's super difficult, man. I mean, like, I really look at you and some of the other guys who've been involved in this a lot longer than I have. And if I look at sort of my value system, how, do I want to get paid, don't I want to get paid sort of thing, I sort of reached my limit within about 6 months of not getting paid, that I would no longer do anything without getting paid again. And I mean, you went 3 years of it. A lot of people have done this for years, and I guess maybe because I also have the whole 9 to 5 thing, I don't necessarily need to get paid to live, but I also, you got to value your time. You got to look at it and go, well, I mean, what am I here? Am I like just a spare wheel? I'm here to contribute. Obviously, I mean, you would look at it this way yourself, but people need to value your contribution, and valuing it means money, motherfuckers.
I mean, that's the thing as well. Like I said, casters and tournament hosts specifically, like back in the day when I started casting Dota, tournament hosts would be like, hey, can you cast this tournament? We're having a LAN in Durban. Do you want to cast it? I'd be like, sure. Am I coming to the LAN? Oh, no, we can't do that. But you're welcome to come to LAN, but we can't pay for that travel. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it's like, I can do it remotely from, will there be internet there? No, there'll be internet. So I said, cool, I can do it remotely from back then I was in PE. I lived in PE. I was like, I'll do it. And they're like, I'm like, cool. Are you going to pay me for this? And they were like, oh, no, it's not really in our budget and stuff. And in the beginning, before I was more adamant about payment, if someone said to me, all of my money has gone towards the prize pool, I was fine with that. I was like, you know what, players come first, make sure they get paid, and then if there's money left over, you can pay the casters. But if they came to me and they're like, oh no, sorry, or sometimes they didn't even respond. Sometimes tournament hosts didn't even respond to me. Once I brought up payment, they didn't respond.
They're and like, what, payment?
Then I'd see someone else casting the game, and then I'd be like, and this is some random dude who they obviously just made a post on their Facebook page, and someone was like, cool, I'll cast, and they're like, cool. And that was my issue with Dota 2. That's why I left Dota 2 in the beginning, was because one, tournament hosts didn't value talent. They didn't value anyone who could cast or anything like that. They just wanted someone to be there because there's this new fad to have casters in your game. And just how easily accessible Dota 2 was. Everyone could pick up a microphone, put on their headset, and cast Dota 2 because it's an in-game client. And you could now sell that off to an organizer that you have casted these big games. In the meantime, you just somehow snuck into the lobby and casted a game. And you could just join the lobby. And that's how a lot of the Dota 2 casters came to be, is that they just... I mean, I did the same thing. I'm not gonna lie. I used to just make lobbies and, invite teams to come play. And but at the same time, I tried really, really hard. And I didn't just get into the scene and be like, yeah, cool, I need to be casting big games like like Knoxville, Halberd, and Congo are doing. I need to be at the top of DGL. That's when DGL added their whole tiered list. You had tiered list of casters. I think it was myself and Knoxville were tier 1. Then it was like Halberd and someone else tier 2. Then it was like everyone else. So basically, they made that distinction to be like, let Congo and Knoxville cast as many games, and the rest of you can do whatever you want. And obviously, Halberd had a problem with that. I mean, Halberd used to despise me. Now we're really good mates, but he used to despise me back in the day, and that's mainly because of that. Because he felt that he'd been around there longer, and he should have been one of the top tier casters. I mean, I didn't ever say like I'm definitely top tier. I should get everything in the game. It just happened to be that way because I was with Ben, and Ben was so tight-knit with DGL. And that wasn't really the only reason. I think myself and Ben made a pretty entertaining pair at the time, but. Ben and I got DGL. We went to the DGL Rage finals. We casted that amazing final between Bravado and Energy, and then it just became a shit show. Then it just became very hostile. Everyone was down each other's throats and stuff like that. You had, Devin. Devin used to work with a friend of mine, and he used to talk shit about me all the time, and then I used to talk shit about Devin and stuff like that. So it was a very hostile community, and it got to a point where I was just like, I'm not interested in casting Dota anymore because there's no point, because I'm now giving up DGL Premier games between Energy and Bravado, and back then it was IM in Team Immersion, and I'm giving up these games to these guys who are terrible. They have no idea what they're doing, but they just, because they signed up to be a DGL caster, they can now cast these games. So it was very I just got over it. And then I saw CS. CS was relatively untouched. It was Nate and
Burning Red, yeah?
Burning Red and Pac-Man, Burning Red, and then that rookie XSL guy, and then there was, I think, Alistair, and then we used to do it long ago, and they stopped doing it then. So it's just basically just Nathaniel. That was it. Nathaniel, so I chatted to Nathaniel, and a lot of the CS guys, Goals specifically, used to play Dota, and he was like, come try out some CS. I was like, okay, cool. And a lot of the guys who played Dota casually and met me and saw me, and they were like, cool, yeah, you come try Dota. So 2014, I was casting the NAG game thing at DGL. Then they were like, cool. They pulled me into one of the CS games. I casted it. I think I casted the final. No, I didn't cast the final with them. I casted the semi-final between Bravado and Energy, where TC whiffed that spray down in old nuke closet downstairs. Old nuke closet. When you open up, TC whiffed the spray, and basically they lost the final, I think, or they lost the semi-final. No, they won the semi-final, but they lost. Yeah, they won.
You're confusing me.
I can't. But anyway, I just remember TC whiffing a shot, and they lost the map, and yeah, that was my first taste of CS, and I loved it. And some of the players seemed to enjoy it as well. A lot of the people watching seemed to enjoy it. So then I decided, Dota was great and all. Dota was also changing a lot. The game was changing. It wasn't really as fun. There was like this horrible meta at the time. And I was just like, this is not a fun game to cast anymore. Like for my style of casting specifically, heavy play-by-play, lots of, hype and shouting and screaming. Not really shouting and screaming, but more play-by-play style. Dota had a lot of downtime. There was a lot of sometimes you'd sit 15 minutes before a big team fight came out. Now Dota's different. Now, if I went back to Dota, I think I'd really enjoy it. But the game has changed so much. My biggest fear about going back to Dota is that it's not the same game I remember. It's a League of Legends, basically. If I go back to Dota now, I'm scared that I'm not going to enjoy the game. And this is a game I played for the better part of 10 years. And I'm scared. I go back there and I'm just like, this game is shit. And I hate this game now. And I don't want to play it anymore. And I don't want to cast it anymore. And there's a massive piece of my esports career. My life is just, I feel like it's worthless, because I just didn't. I don't enjoy it anymore. I still like watching it, Dota. I mean, it looks okay. I'm not getting too invested in it. But with CS, it was 2 minutes or 1 minute 45 seconds of action, straight flat out action, and I loved that. I loved everything about it, and and then I was hooked. From then on, I was hooked, and I started. I couldn't stream, which was the biggest issue with CS:GO.
Well, that's actually maybe something we need to talk about quickly. You were just mentioning how the entry into casting Dota is relatively easy,
yes.
and whereas
that's why I wanted to get into CS, because it was just Burning Red and I at the time.
Well, I mean, but CS, the entry into it requires equipment. It requires fast internet. It's a lot harder to do, and I don't think people quite realize this. You need to actually spend some money to be able to do it.
You could give people the GoTV IP and then bring them all onto TeamSpeak and make them all mute their mics and cast them.
I've done that. I used to do that in Team Fortress 2 back in the day.
So there are ways around it, but it requires a lot more effort. Whereas Dota's like, cool, microphone, get on, put open mic, start casting a game, 100%. But with CS, you had to stream, and I couldn't stream. And now I can, but I can't stream to Twitch. I can only stream to YouTube. But Twitch just does not work on my line.
Yeah. I mean, fiber routing in South Africa is pretty shocking, man. So.
Once it leaves the South African shores, it just goes to who knows. China routes back to Sweden, then to America, then back to the Twitch server in Frankfurt. Like who knows where it goes? So I mean, I still love casting, but yeah, the move to CS was a no-brainer for me. And I tried some other games. I tried Overwatch as well. Overwatch was surprisingly awesome. It was actually an awesome game to cast, but I just don't see a future in it anymore.
Yeah,
I did see a future in it.
That's maybe something let's touch on a little bit there, man.
Okay.
You say you did see a future in it. You just reckon it's died, or it's gonna die, or what's your thought there?
It's in the process of dying at the moment. I don't know if you follow how many different esports titles you follow, but you'll see Blizzard with their whole new league system. They're kind of franchising it. They're targeting
the regional franchises.
Yeah.
It's like a city tied to a
They're
name.
targeting non-endemic brands. So they're targeting now. They've got like Robert Kraft, who's the owner of the which basketball team.
I know this one.
He owns Kraft Sports. He owns Kraft Sports, which owns several franchises.
But I mean, they're
areas.
saying the buy-in is like $20 million. It's like crazy
Precisely.
money.
So, and this is seeing a lot of the teams, like I think the 5 teams that are left already is like Dignitas, TSM, Complexity, I think Denial Esports, and the latest one today was I said Dignitas already, I can't remember, but all these teams are now saying like there's no point in being part of Overwatch anymore because we can't afford these buy-ins. And then Blizzard are like, oh no, don't listen to all these rumors, none of this is true.
Yeah, I saw that press release last year.
But yes, we are targeting non-endemic organizations, but don't worry, we're still looking out for the little guys.
Do you follow Stuchu on Twitter? He does. He was originally a StarCraft guy, and he switched to CS:GO, but he also does some sort of general articles. And he did like a piece which I thought was really clever, where it was basically, there was that allegation from, I think it was ESPN or CNN, I don't know who it was, but somebody did a piece on how Overwatch is dying because of this, and then Blizzard released a statement last week basically sort of countering that and saying that it's all it's rumors and this and that. I'm sure you saw that very generic statement. So what Stu did is he took this and he did a translated version of their art, like article.
They didn't deny anything. They didn't say anything that this is not true.
They just said nothing.
They basically the TLDR of that article was, hey guys, don't listen to fake news.
Yeah, well, I mean,
don't listen to rumors. Like, we're not saying the rumors are true, but just don't listen to them. Yeah, don't listen to the rumors. They may or not be true, but just stay away from them. But yeah, I mean, Blizzard is they're one of my favorite companies. I mean, I've always said, like, I always browse their job section just waiting for a day where they're looking for someone in my kind of area that requires 0 degrees or 0. And I love Blizzard. They're my favorite company. World of Warcraft is my all-time favorite game. I loved StarCraft. I loved all their games. But when it comes to esports, I mean, what they're doing is right. I like the structure of the league. I like what they're targeting. But they can't forget about their bread and butter, which are these teams that are trying. I mean, it comes down. Look at the Alienware Monthly Melee. They got all those competitions. Gosu Gamers have their league and stuff like that. These are the guys you need to be looking out for. You can't keep denying them. They've got their World Cup coming up, which is great. South Africa didn't feature because we're terrible. But that's also why I saw the whole no future for Overwatch, because myself and Luca ran the OCS Overwatch tournament with SteelSeries last year. Mm-hmm. And it went well. The first month was awesome. We actually had a lot of viewers. I mean, we had a lot of guys watching the stream. Casting it was fun, but then we just, after a few months of doing this, we realized we're in South Africa and this isn't going to work. This is just not good, because players were complaining about us including internationals. Then they were complaining about the latency. Then every other week I saw a post on the Facebook page complaining about the ping and complaining about the, how can we compete? We need South African servers. And Blizzard's netcode is actually incredible. Like, their netcode is so good that you'd play better if you're in Europe playing on European ping, but you're not at much of a disadvantage. You can adjust to that ping. I mean, you have teams in North America playing against teams in Europe, and they're playing on the same ping we're playing, and they're winning. Look at Envious, who were the most dominant team in 2016, absolutely wrecking teams in Europe, and they were playing from North America. Like, this is no excuse. You are just shit, and this is why this scene will never grow, and it's dead. It's completely dead. The DGL is running Overwatch competitions. Luke and I mean, you saw the new OCS roster. I mean, if I go to the Arena site right now, I don't actually think I saw Overwatch there on the list. I can't actually remember.
I don't recall seeing it, but
I don't think I see. Oh, okay, it is there. It is.
It is. But, I mean, okay, well, geez, maybe we just blank it out of our minds as like a bad memory.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the other thing. This whole Arena thing, like this, I've known about this for like the whole year, and it's just people. I mean, I go to these LAN events, and people are like, "Oh, what's happening with Arena? Like, what are you guys doing?"
You can't say anything.
I'm like, I don't know, fucking Luca, man. He doesn't want to tell me anything. Meantime, we've been having meetings like weekly, like telling me like what's going on with the company. I'm just like, oh no, Luca's not telling me anything. Don't worry about it. I'm sure he'll figure out something by the year. And I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's
rad. I think the whole concept of the final is going to be freaking wicked. Like, it's the coolest concept I've seen for a final.
You mean the 2 split weekends?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be. it's gonna be awesome. I mean, the cool thing about Luca is he's like me. He's also in between. He's friends with everyone. He's friends with he's on good terms with Barry from Metal State. He's on good terms, I think, with you guys as well, like Nate and them. They talk often, and we're in between everything. So for us to be like, oh, we want guys to come and do these things, it's easy. We can just kind of put out feelers, be like, we're looking for guys to do shit, and guys come do shit, So that's why I like, and that's why I said, like, I was telling you earlier, like the whole fact that everything's becoming central around Johannesburg. Arena's always had the Cape Town kind of presence, which is why I moved here, which is why I lived with Luca for years. We worked on things with Arena, and the great thing about Arena is it kind of it transcends just tournaments. That's what we moved away from. Last year we had the podcast, we had the tournaments. I mean, the writing the articles every day. It's a getting into the whole that kind of sphere of esports is difficult, because while it doesn't necessarily exist in its own platform in South Africa at the moment, like there aren't, besides Good Luck Have Fun and maybe one or other two magazines. If I leave them out, I apologize.
Zombie Gamer, I guess.
Zombie Gamer to an extent, but he's also very heavy centralized on gaming, general gaming overall. Like there's not really a market for that, and there's not really an audience for that either. I mean, there's not a lot of people actively running around South Africa looking to catch up on the daily South African esports news, because one, there's not much, and two, it's just, there's a lot more better ththings to focus on internationally. So I like what the kind of direction that Arena's going in. I mean, I could have told Luca thanks but no thanks. I'm going to stay a free agent and continue begging people for work. But
that's what I do.
no, but I think like the difference is and it's that you do have the 9 to 5, and I think for me the biggest struggle for me was just finding work that was both fulfilling and paid okay, and that was one of the struggles, I think, for a large part of 2016 last year. Last year was dry. It was so dry and so shit. It was just, I mean, I was part of NAV back in the day. I think it was 2014. That's right sort of casting with Nate. I was part of NAV, but because I was living in Cape Town, I was so disconnected from everything that when it came to getting work, I would get work with Luca, and then I'd be like, oh shit, I'm supposed to like let Luca go through NAV and then hire me and stuff like that. So, and also I was with SteelSeries at the time, and they were with Gigabyte and other people, and it was just a bit of a nightmare. So eventually it came to Nate, and I was like, Nate, I can't stream, so I can't really do CS. I'm falling behind. All the other casters are doing things. So I was like, what is our plan? And he's like, okay, no. Well, I said to him, look, I'm going to leave, but I'm still going to work with you guys as much as I can. And that was the plan from then on out. And it worked for a year or two. But then, when I got into my journalism and I got into, I started becoming very critical of everyone in the scene. After my article on DGL, I wasn't necessarily targeting people or targeting organizations, but something needed to be done. Something needed to be sorted out. And NAV was all of a sudden in my crosshair, in a sense that I started, messaging Nate and stuff like that, and about things that aren't right, and those things didn't improve for the longest of times. You had a very, and I think I said this in one of our little bouts on Facebook as well a while ago, is that in my opinion there was a sort of a hierarchy. It's no longer there anymore. It's gone. The hierarchy's gone, but it was like, people were putting themselves to cast certain games that didn't deserve to be there because they weren't very good. And the guys in the lower that were really good were just getting shifted to like the basement, in a sense. And this was across pretty much all esports. It wasn't necessarily just CSGO or Dota 2. I'm not going to say which one I'm talking about, because then it would become blatantly obvious. But what I'm saying is, like, there was, in my opinion, something wrong there. And you, I think you're smiling, so I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. And there was a bit of a backlash afterwards. So when I became outspoken about that, like, I did go privately with Nate, talk about it, and he kind of agreed that there are things that need work on. And in my opinion, my biggest issue with Nav TV back in the day was that it was a complete free for all. Anybody who wanted to do casting can come cast, and they were given gigs, which is the right premise, which is what the company's supposed to do. But there was no one there vetting these people. There was no one there listening in on them and being like, oh, this person's okay. We need to get someone in to train them. We need to get someone in to be like, yo, dude, don't say so much. Don't say this so much.
Hey, that's me.
Don't swear. That sort of stuff.
Shit, you just keep talking about me, man. Like,
no, but there was no one in there to vet these people, and that was my biggest issue with Nav TV, was that they were letting their rosters be filled by people who were just passionate about casting. They just wanted to be there. They wanted to cast. They wanted to.
I think that's kind of that whole thing that the players are in right now, transition from complete amateur to semi-pro to pro eventually. Like, the broadcasting side has to move along with it. I can't really speak too much of what you're saying because I mean, I only know like three people at Nav. I've never actually been
Hmm.
involved with them
No,
aside from that, but
it
I have seen what you're talking about. That's why
yeah,
I was smiling. I like looking from the
it's
outside, going, "Wow, okay, this
yeah,
is
and that's
interesting."
it.
So
I now had because not being part of Nav, I now had a very objective overview of everything, and I was just and it was more so in Dota 2 that there were just so many more casters, and it comes back down to the whole accessibility of Dota 2. And I don't fault Nav and Vet and Devin back then for bringing on these casters, but something needed to be done to train them. You need to have workshops, you need to have stuff like that, and
yeah,
you can't expect Nate to spend a whole Saturday night sitting in TS teaching people how to broadcast. I mean, there's so much information out there. I mean, even now to this day, I listen to people casting Dota, I listen to people casting CS in this country, and I think to myself, like, has this person ever watched anyone else cast CS:GO? Has this person ever played CS:GO? Has this person ever
yeah, been
has this
there.
person ever played Dota, watched Dota? Just have you listened to another broadcaster? And I'm not saying you need to go and mimic this person's performance, but there is a very good reason why this guy is casting to 60,000 viewers and you're casting to 60 viewers. It's the way it's how you become entertaining, because that's your job. You're an entertainer. You're not there to relay people that can't see the game, if they're blind. Unfortunately, you're not there to relay to them that this is happening this second. Your job is an entertainer. You're a storyteller. You're bringing up a narrative of what's going on in this game. You're not there to tell them line for line what's going on. You're a storyteller. And I think, and I mean, I'm going to be slightly less modest here for a second as I explain my reasoning. In high school, I was heavy maths and science. That was my bread and butter. I loved maths. I loved science, but I also did dramatic arts. And surprisingly, that is the one subject that has helped me the most in my career path. Like, obviously I did engineering in the beginning. That's where maths and science were big, but I love entertaining, and that's always been. I love public speaking. I love entertaining. I love being in the spotlight. You can say I'm a bit of a drama queen in that sense, but that has helped me a lot because that taught me how to remain entertaining, how to project myself, how to tell a story in a sense, because I feel like a lot of guys lack that. And I've tried my best to help people in that sense. I mean, I had an idea last year. I said, before the next big tournament coming up, whether it's ESL, whether it's OCS, whether it's DGL, whatever we're all involved in, we get a day, we all go up to Johannesburg, we go to a hall somewhere, we put up a TV, and we all just watch everybody's VODs, and we sit and we talk, and we say, like, this is what we need to do to get better. Because if guys are not willing to go and do it by themselves, are not willing to go watch videos, then someone has to be there to help them. Someone has to be there to teach them. And I think in my opinion, what would make people better at casting is, it's not your ability to tell the story. It's your ability to understand how to tell the story. That makes sense. Like,
Yeah, it does.
Are you watching? Are you watching what's going on, or are you part of what's going on? Are you just there to tell people that this is happening right now, or are you there to kind of take people on this journey from when that first round starts to that round 16 buzzer goes off? Are you're there for that time? You're there with the players. You're there with the viewers. And I think that's something that a lot of people need to learn and realize, that when it comes to casting games, you're there to take your viewers on a journey, and you need to take them with you throughout the way. I mean, yes, some of us slack. Some of us, we get tired. I mean, I get tired in broadcast sometimes, and I start saying random shit and stuff like that. But at the same time, you and your co-caster need to have that understanding.
Absolutely.
Yes, there's a bit of analytics, there's a bit of but that's where that's why I love this new style of casting CS:GO. It's no longer I'm doing play by play, you're doing analytics. It's analytical play by play. You're talking about things, you're saying what's going on, you're telling people what's going on, but you're also telling them why it's happening, why this shouldn't be happening, or why it should be happening. So I really, really, that's what I love most about CS:GO. And all I want to see is just people, taking it on themselves to go and watch CS:GO and, listen and watch your own VODs. When I was looking for advice on Overwatch casting, I sent stuff to one of the top Overwatch casters, and he actually responded. And he sent me walls and walls and walls of text, and he said to me what his kind of routine after he casts a game. He watches that VOD from start to finish. He watches the VOD. He then, if he's not happy with it, he mutes that audio. He casts over it again, records it, watches that VOD again, and he repeats
dedication.
that process. That's why he's the best Overwatch caster in the world. And it's the same with like people like Monte Cristo used to cast LOL. It's the same with half the people from ESL. It's this kind of process of watching your own work. I can guarantee you right now, if some guys that cast in this country had to go and watch their work, they would turn around and be like, God, I'm boring as shit. or my word, I'm just terrible at this. Like I said I said ooh, I said oh, I swore, I made silly jokes, I did things that I wasn't supposed to say. I clearly don't understand the game enough to be saying these things. And I think it's more just, and you have to be that kind of person. You have to be a bigger person to notice.
You have to be very self-critical, and
I would say not self-critical, but you have to be understanding. You have to just look at it and say, like, I'm watching this now, and people are bringing this up on stream. People are bringing this up on Facebook, and you might not agree with them. You might see them
but
just
the information correlates, right?
Yeah.
So.
You're watching it now and you're like, okay, I did kind of, I was maybe being a little bit too biased towards energy esports, maybe a little bit too biased towards bravado. I wasn't given the benefit of the doubt. I mean, sometimes you can't help it. If one team is winning 16-0, you're going to sound biased, because what else are you going to talk about? Oh, this team's trying really hard. No, they're getting trashed. But yeah, so I think, looking at kind of the direction for casting, and there's not really any, who am I to now step forward and be like, okay, guys, I'm going to teach you all how to shoutcast. Like, I maybe could have done that 3 years ago when I was, slightly more known for shoutcasting, but I haven't done it in that long. If I had to step forward now and start putting out tutorials on how to be a better shoutcaster, it would be pointless, because I learned from Day 9. I learned from Thorin. I learned from all those casters. Back in the day, I used to be a big fan of StarCraft, and I've always felt StarCraft and Dota and CS casting were very, very similar. It's also quite action, but there's a little bit of downtime as well. So you're watching people like that, and like Tasteless and Nartosis, like those guys back in the day, they were the most amazing casters. And they still are. They're still doing StarCraft too. I know Atosis. I don't know much about Tasteless anymore. But these are the kind of guys that their videos, their knowledge, there's a wealth of it out there, and it's all over YouTube. They've written blogs, they've written stories. I don't really like the guy, but even look at Red Eye stuff. Red Eye has some really good stuff out there. You can go and watch his stuff and read his blogs, and he's got an ebook as well that's free, if I'm not mistaken. And there's some really good information out there. And I feel like people are it's too easy right now to be a shoutcaster. No one's really putting in the effort. No one's really pushing the boundaries. It's kind of a you don't really even have an okay voice, but you're here. That's all we need. We just need you to be here. Just be here and be here.
A line has to be drawn in the sand at some point about the quality, of course.
Exactly, and that is the biggest issue right now. In my opinion, there are maybe 4 good commentators in this country. 4. I'm not going to say who. If you feel like you're one of them, then you know exactly who you are. But in my opinion, there are about 4 really good commentators in this country, and I think they are just they need to step up. They need to step forward and be like, to start calling out the people that not call them up, but helping them, even if it's privately. Go to them and be like, dude, come on, like, you can't be saying these things on stream. You can't keep. It's good enough that you want to have your own little catchphrase, but come on, it's not professional.
I think it may also sort of tie into what you were saying a little bit earlier about people in general in the esports scene being incredibly hypersensitive, being very, how shall we say, quick to take offense. And I think, in that space, as you said, you're talking about helping people where you wanted to do a workshop a while back. That probably would have worked a couple of years ago. Now it feels like the thickness of skins is paper thin, and unfortunately, anything that gets said about anybody, it seems to be taken to heart. Like, for me, I'm in the position that I've very seldomly been criticized publicly in terms of casting. Other things plenty, but casting not so much. So, in that space, it's possibly been a little bit easier for me. But then there's guys like yourself and Nate who've been hauled over the coals by people in the industry, probably unfairly at times. And then there's other guys who maybe aren't so good, and they get hauled over the coals too. And somehow it's not their fault for being bad. Yeah. It's very interesting. It seems to also be who you're friends with, who you know, as to whether you're good or bad, basically.
Oh God, don't even get me started on the whole clicks and circles.
Oh yeah, it's a bit crazy, isn't it?
Oh, don't even get me started on that. But yeah, you're right. I've never really been. Like I said, there are people out there that enjoy my casting or don't. But I don't think I've ever made it. I've never had like something said publicly, like a Facebook status about me being like, "Fuck that guy's shit." The only thing I ever got called out on for was that I made a 9/11 joke. And someone posted on Facebook, they were like, "How could Congo make 9/11 jokes?" And I'm like, dude, it's like 15 years ago. Like, but it was an inside job anyway. Bush did it. It was an inside job. Get over it. But okay, that's wrong to say. But you know what I'm saying? Like, people got upset. That's the one thing.
The Earth is flat. The moon landings were fake.
Yeah. But yeah, there are a lot of like for me, as I said to you earlier, like being based in Cape Town is tough because a lot of the work right now is happening in Johannesburg, and it's hard. It's really hard because companies aren't in the position yet to start like being like, cool, we need Kyle for this event. Let's fly him up several times a month to do this. Like companies aren't in that position yet. So for me down here, it's like, cool, I can help you. I can do some content for you, blah, blah, blah. I can maybe come cast the grand final, but I'm not there for that initial phases and stuff like that. And which is largely why I haven't really been casting. There's not really much to cast. ESL, you guys do that from a studio. Metal State was all done from a studio. There's the DGL, but I'm not interested in doing DGL. I don't know. I'm not going to go into why I'm not interested in DGL, but I'm just not interested in doing DGL, or VS gaming, whatever they're called right now. I still don't see them valuing it that much. I still don't see them valuing the entertainment of their streams.
Well, that's an interesting thing because you mentioned something earlier on, and I actually wanted to jump in, but I didn't. So let me. I think you brought us full circle there. Last year, well, that's this year. Sorry, what am I saying? I mean, last year I worked for Telkom a fair bit, did quite a lot of casting, did the finals at Masters as well. Yeah. And then going into the new year, a lot of people were asking why aren't any of the games being covered? And initially it was because they hadn't made any provision to do that, which is
exactly,
that's ironic considering if you look at their mission statement, it's about quality broadcasting of and that's like what in the first paragraph. But that aside, when it actually came to casting, basically because I'd done something that didn't actually directly criticize them, I did a video talking about the economics of Masters and whether people actually made any money or not, and it's based on information that's on their website. I didn't even directly criticize them. From there it became, okay, well, we want your co-caster, but we don't want you. So
you got ostracized. Okay.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I don't think they know that I know that, but now all my viewers know that. So congratulations.
I'm the same. I mean, I was completely ostracized after my article in 2015, but I was actually approached last year by the DGL to get back into it, and I actually did start getting back into DGL. I remember I was in the Skype group with you guys. I started casting a DGL game every now and then with Luca, which is weird because we're pretty much we're a competing company, but we did it because we both just loved casting. But it's worrisome. Put it this way: it's worrisome that they haven't put a lot of emphasis on their broadcasting for this year specifically, because they've got the VS Gaming coming up now, which is partnered with SuperSport broadcasters. So maybe there's two things here. Maybe they haven't been letting people cast stuff like that, or actively getting people to cast because they've got plans with SuperSport. They
that would be great. I hope
train up broadcasters. I think it's going to be terrible, but I mean, SuperSport has the facility and stuff like that, but
they don't have the talent.
Who's going to fill those roles? I mean, are they going to be taking from the upper echelons, which is all those people already are working for the ESLs, the Metal States, the Arenas, all those top people are already in those positions with other companies, and they're not going to leave because, I mean, we know with Telkom comes exclusivity. So now they're signing a deal with SuperSport. Is SuperSport going to train up these broadcasters that they're bringing in? I know Succubus and Jabba are casting almost exclusively the DGL for Dota, but I think Jabba did do a bit of Mega 8 this past weekend. So some of the Dota guys are already in on the DGL, but there's no one doing CSGO. There's nobody.
Well, I think Wham and Hayes were doing the community shield, but that's not Masters.
Yeah, not Masters, but I mean, I'm talking now specifically about the Masters program. I mean, we've got the event this weekend. The Masters Dota 2 is this weekend, and I haven't seen a single post. Let me actually go look. What is it? It is this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. VS Gaming.
On that front, I do know that in terms of the actual tournament, teams didn't know where it was going to be up until recently. The information was still on the ground. Casters didn't know where it was going to be, what provinces it was going to be in.
Yeah.
So,
Dota 2 Masters live stream from the 19th of May. Details: 110,000 rand cash pool, South Africa top 8 teams, double elimination. Like, there's nothing there about who's broadcasting. There's there's a YouTube and a Twitch channel being advertised, but nothing about like with Mega 8, they released the casting, the people casting the match. They hyped it up. There's nothing here. There's literally nothing. And I'm going to scroll on their page, and there's just like
the interesting thing for me about Telkom is, like, again, I don't want to put any shade on them in the sense that they're the pioneers. They're the guys who put things in place for guys like you and me to actually be doing this.
Yeah.
So, props to them. But as you said, guys are a little bit sensitive on their side, and I guess rightly so in some ways, but probably overly, where I kind of feel with them. I mean, I know you say you won't work with them. For me, I don't mind working for them. If you pay me, I'll work for you. I'm quite happy to do it. It's just,
but what
it
I meant in
also
that
needs
sense,
to. Let me finish on my bit quickly.
sorry,
It needs to also hit a minimum level of quality for me to be involved, basically.
exactly.
And for me, I felt a little bit let down by Masters last year that I felt it didn't hit the level of quality. And I mean, I'm saying that, but I've said it before on a video.
You
So
made it out there with frostbite.
yeah, well, my nose nearly fell off. Every extremity nearly fell off from that like cold box. But it was extremely difficult working conditions, man. And obviously, the viewership wasn't what it could have been. It could have been so much better. I know they tried, and I hope that it will be better this week. But again, it's just. I don't know for you, but you look at the track record and you go, well, it hasn't been fantastic. So let's hope it turns around. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt, and I will absolutely work for them. I've got no issue against them. They maybe got an issue against me, but for not actually saying anything negative, for being very indirect and using information from their own website. But that's how the cookie crumbles, I guess. I mean, for you, what are your feelings? Do you really want to talk about it? I mean,
I do. I mean, after the announcement, I messaged Infi on Skype and I congratulated him with the whole VS gaming announcement thing. And I said to him, I did actually approach and say I'm willing to work. I jokingly said, when do I set my CV into cast? And then I said that. So my point was that after that, and I just didn't even get a response from him. So I mean, that kind of was really indicative of his feelings towards me. I mean, anyone who sends that message would at least respond with a "haha, good one" or "haha, we'll see" or something like that. Just a normal stupid response.
Or even a courteous "fuck off." We don't like you.
I mean, even something to that extent. I mean, I will always respond to people when they ask me for things or ask me to do things. I'll always respond, even if it's a yes or no or a very valid excuse. I mean, for him just not to respond to me, it kind of makes me feel like, okay, they have their own plan. They know what they want to do. If they're not reaching out to people like you, people like me, people like Nate, if they're not reaching out to these people, then what is their plan? I mean, I don't know if they've reached out to Hayes and Wham. They probably have. I haven't actually even asked them. I'm pretty sure if I had to ask them, that they probably would lie to me. Okay, they wouldn't. They'd probably tell me what's going on. But I don't know if they've reached out to any of these people. And I don't even know what's happening with the Dota this weekend. And that's my biggest concern, is that we don't know. Is it just going to be Jabba and Succubus doing it? Is it just going to be, is Devon going up for it? Are the Nav guys doing it? Like, what is going on?
I think they might be, but again, I'm not involved with them, but I have heard a rumbling of it. So exactly. I think potentially, but again, like, frick, I don't know. So.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I going back to the whole, you want to criticize these people and they get a little bit touched about it. I mean, that just kind of goes towards these kind of relationships you built over the years. Like, it's a very, very close knit community and
very insular.
Yeah, and that's and it has its benefits, but it also has its downfalls as well. And I think a lot of it comes to all of us being in it together from the start. I mean, I'm looking back at 2012, 2013, when there was a very small community. It was the DGL, and in terms of the production, the broadcasting. The teams that were out back then, looking at the DGL, it was Ben, myself, and Devon doing a lot of the Dota 2. Then the next year it was just exploded. The whole Nav TV crew was all set up downstairs. But it was a very tight-knit community, and all of us worked together in the beginning, and things grew very quickly. But then it got to a point where some of us were getting work, some of us weren't, and I think that's where the whole, people's feelings started getting a bit touched. I mean, to help like, I'm going to use Devon again for an example, even though I love the dude. Back then it was, when I got a gig and he did it, it was Monday morning at work with a mate of mine, him telling him what a horrible person I am, and then having to get that back. I mean, yeah, okay, I didn't say a lot of nice things about Devon at the time as well. But now I personally feel that he is the best shoutcaster in the country. I think in terms of gaming entertainment, he has something that a lot of guys don't.
I agree.
Yeah, so at the time it was hostile. It became very, very hostile, and I think that kind of just bred hate amongst everyone in that whole Nav. I mean, there was so much shit talking going on in that whole thing. I mean, I had people who were inside the Nav Skype, and they were constantly sending me like screenshots and stuff like that of the shit talking going on there. This is after we'd resolved all our issues, and this is like a year after I'd left Nav, and I was just like how is this stuff still going on? And I mean, I was forward about it. I literally messaged them immediately, and I was like, yo, people are leaking shit. Like, don't do this. Stop talking shit. And then the apologies came and stuff like that. But that's just testament to just how touched people can be. And I mean, I've said things in the past that have both in public forums and in private that have gotten out and stuff like that, and at the same time, some of it sometimes is not even that bad. like some of it is true. Some of it is just, it's true enough to a point where if I say it, it's going to hurt someone's feelings. Like there are players out there in this, like in Dota and CS, that are terrible at the game, but we don't say it publicly because they're responsible. Who are we to say this? And I mean, well, you're kind of playing shit in every game you play, but okay, who are we to say this? We're impeding on your safe space, your little bubble that you live in, that everyone's a try hard professional player.
Well, I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier, man. That's casting is about entertainment. It's not just about bringing the facts across. Like I've heard from players before where they wanted to tell somebody, like, listen, dude, I don't like your casting because you're not saying this, you're not saying that, you're not explaining what's going on. And it's like, that's fucking irrelevant. It doesn't matter because I'm not, whether it's me or whoever, we're not here to cast so that blind people, exactly as you said, so blind people can somehow see what's going on. We're here to be entertainers. And if we're going to name every single nuance of what's going on, then it's not entertaining. So, but at the same time, sometimes we also need to say that thing that sounds a little bit sort of incendiary, that thing that's going to make people possibly a little bit upset. And do you know why we say it? The reason we say it is because it's part of entertainment. It's dropping something in that's a little bit controversial for people to go, wow, okay, that's a bit crazy, but hey, they have eyes, they're watching the game, they can see this guy's not having a good game.
I mean, you look at just to touch on that point right now, just quick before I forget. To an extent, they aren't wrong. I mean, I listen to some broadcasts and something that's really, really important is happening on the screen, like something that a lot of viewers might not know, whether you're a well-versed CSGO player or just a casual player.
You've got to point that out, absolutely.
And these things go unchecked. They go missed. I mean, I'm not saying you need to literally walk down to every little, like you said, every little nuance of the game and bring it out, but there are very, very important things happening. Buys, people switching out guns in the beginning, like one guy buying a rifle, giving his Tech 9 to the next person, he gives his pistol to him, like stuff like that. Someone with armor gets this, like little things that a lot of the commentators miss completely because they're cracking jokes or they are, they're just not looking for these things because they're not players. And there are casting pairs out there that do very, very well, but at the same time, you need to look out for these things. You need to while you're entertaining people, they're also players. Like you have to fill so many roles when you're a broadcaster, because while you have to know enough about the game to be entertaining, that is still a big aspect of it. Like you have to have a good voice, you have to be able to, like I said, tell the story of what's going on, but you also have to have knowledge of the game. You also have to know why this is happening, why it shouldn't happen, why it should happen. And that's why, I mean, you talk about controversial things said on broadcasts and panels. I think the more controversial stuff is discussed on panels through and through. I think broadcasters crack a joke every now and then, but take what happened with Sadicus like last week, where he made a joke about VP throwing against, I think it was a Rogue. They threw against, like they didn't throw, they lost, they got beat. But Sadicus in jest, as I love that word, in jest, went on a tirade about he's so sick and tired of Virtus Pro throwing games and like he's like, what's that team team from America that got busted for throwing? Abba Power. He's like, Abba Power should be really pissed off that that Virtus Pro keep getting away with this, and he was joking, like it was a joke. But anyway,
online CS, right?
Yeah, but people lost their minds completely. And,
well, the Polish fans have no sense of humor. We know that. Eh?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you can't make those kinds of jokes even on such a professional platform. And it was maybe a little bit unprofessional from him on that panel, but it doesn't take away from the fact that some of his broadcasting he does is just amazing. Like I said, his ability to tell a story when watching CS:GO, and that's actually something I learned from him when I worked with him.
Yeah, that was Counterpit, eh?
Yeah,
for
back
PGL.
in the day, Counterpit. Yeah. One of the things working with him, he taught me a lot about CS:GO. He taught me a lot about the kind of narrative you bring forward in CS:GO. He used to notice that I used to look a lot at the kill feed. I used to almost broadcast off the kill feed. And he said to me, that's not how you do it. He said, and he taught me a lot of really great things about CS:GO. And of course, me being then just coming from Dota 2, and he knew that. He knew I'd just come from Dota 2. So he was pretty accommodating, pretty welcoming. And then we kind of tried the whole, you shoutcast this round, I shoutcast this round, and then after the map, we'd off camera, off sound, we talk about the games, and he'd give me tips and stuff like that, and it was really, really helpful. But casting with Sadicus was amazing. But when I came back to South Africa, I didn't have a Sadicus. I had to take up the role as, when I'm casting someone, I had to pretend to be the Sadicus. I had to pretend to like help this person, and that's why for me, casting has taken a little bit of a slip, because I just don't have a person that I'm willing and I want to cast with. And it's like I said to you off air. I said, your casting partner needs to be your partner. He's the kind. You need to be able to look at him and be like, I could hang out with this guy. We are actually friends. We actually can go for a beer after this. And a lot of the guys I casted with, and I apologize if you're going to watch this and you think, but hang on, I casted with Kyle. A lot of those people, other than Luca, like it wasn't really much of a relationship. In between casts, we'd go our separate ways. Lighters, I casted quite a bit with Lighters, and he's definitely someone he's a good friend of mine. So I mean, but he's a player. Same with Apocalypse. Apocalypse is someone I could hang out with, but he's a player. You can't, when it comes to professional casting, you can't keep relying on players. You can't keep saying, okay, I'll get a player for this tournament. I tried it with a couple of tournaments and it just was horrible. You can't do that. You need to have a stable
you need a casting partner. And I mean, if you look on the international scene, there's guys who are amazing casters, but because they don't have a partner, they're limited in sort of the work they can do. You look at a guy like Metus or Blue, or I mean, Moses was in that space for a while until he joined Room on Fire. And I mean, these are like top people, but they don't have a casting partner.
Yeah, I mean, I actually really enjoy Moses and Pansy. I actually really enjoy their cast. I think they're pretty good together. Matus is great. I mean, I remember seeing him when he was doing no viewers and just casting some of the games in the UK and stuff like that. He was a really good caster, and I mean, that kind of dream for me. I mean, that was a dream of mine for so many years, was to just get out of here and just be an international shoutcaster, go to ESL, DreamHack, stuff like that. And that dream started like kind of fading away when I realized that like I said to you earlier, I could be of a lot more value in South Africa. I feel still kind of, it's while I wouldn't, if someone phoned me tomorrow and was like, yo, dude, we need you to come do ESL in New York, something like that, I would honestly I would say cheers. I'd be like,
yeah.
No, okay, I wouldn't.
See you, motherfuckers. I'm out here.
I'm out. But yeah, like it's not really. It would be nice, but it's not what I'm striving for. You know, I'm rather striving for a like a very good community in South Africa, a good flourishing environment, ecosystem for both players, casters, writers, video makers, whatever you call yourself. But you are part of esports and you're part of the bigger picture. That's my kind of goal. And, that's why I've kind of stuck around with Arena, because Luca and I share a lot of the same goals when it comes to, we have a lot of creative differences, I'll be honest about that, but we both share the same goals, which I think is probably the most important thing for making a company, what you want it to be. Well, his idea, but I'm just there to kind of sometimes ground him, be like, it's a good idea, but let's take it down to this level. Because Luca's he's a what's the word I'm looking for?
Is he the guy with the big ideas and you're the guy who helps him make it happen?
Yes, he has very big ideas, but sometimes and it's unfortunate that we live in this kind of I would say infant industry at the moment, because these ideas are great. I mean, they could really, really work, but had we have been this successful in Europe, probably be giving ESL a run for their money. But the fact is, we're not in Europe, we're in South Africa. So, everything has to kind of be like, maybe this will work, maybe this will work. But the fact remains is that, at the moment, it's just giving people opportunity to grow. I mean, that should be your premise as any sort of figure in this community, is that what you're doing, what you're creating, you're giving people a chance to understand, and you're also creating platforms for them to grow as well. So people watching your videos where you talk with APOC about CS and stuff like that, and your analytics stuff like that, people and players watch it and they're like, okay, this will help me. Like I can see if they take away one little point from it, whether the entire video is rubbish, but one point of it is really good for them. I'm saying them.
That's the case with most of our videos. Usually the entire video is rubbish. So
I'm using just a very like broad example here, but like it's the same thing. Like you watch Thor and stuff. I don't enjoy the entire thing of Thorin's videos, but there are points of it where I'm like, this is helpful. Thank you, Thorin. Tweeted him, thank you, Thorin. But the rest was shit. No, but it's like there are points of the video where you're like, these really help me. And I think that's a lot of people in this industry, Luca, Nate, everyone who works together, works in tournaments, stuff like that. The goal should be creating that environment, creating that ecosystem for growth all out. And I mean, that's a lot of the targets. And there are people that are, and I envy people coming into the scene now. I really envy them, because there are people like myself, Nate, Devin, who have literally been grinding since 2012. And there are people that came in 8 months ago and now they're on TV talking about esports and stuff like that. And that doesn't grate me. It's just unfortunate, because while these people can be very outspoken people and knowledgeable people, understanding people, there's still a wealth of knowledge, which was
all that history that's
a wealth of understanding as to, if you're going to talk about the state of the community, There are a lot of things you need to understand. If we're looking back, I mean, I was part of the Dota community back in 2005 when we were still on the Twilight forums or the Rogue and Reason forums back in those days. I mean, there's literally an entire history of player interaction and community kind of outlook that you're missing, that you've seen you're coming into the scene now. You're coming into an era of fucking memes and toxicity. Like, you're not going to be able to get a good grasp of the community. Not at all. You're coming into a Facebook group where people are calling each other trash, and you go into a CS game or Dota game, people are using racial slurs and stuff like that. That's the kind of community we're in right now. We're in this weird toxic space of memes and fucking whatever else you want to look at. But we had a good community, and we still are. There still are very, very good aspects of our community, very good people in our community. Yeah. And I feel like like someone said to me yesterday, it takes 100 people to build a community. It takes one person to tear them down. Like, if I had to go now on Facebook and someone had to quote me saying like something racial, everyone who's been held up in my regard may just come down with me because, it could have been in a game with them where they laughed it off or something like that. Like, say right now, if I said a racial slur in your video right now and you laughed about it, for example, you and I will both be trashed tomorrow. Okay, you probably wouldn't upload it. But but you know what I'm saying? If it happened on a live stream or something like that and a racial slur or something came out, and you didn't kind of reprimand me and be like, hey, you don't say that word, you would be brought down with
me.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. It's a very fine line you walk as a broadcaster. What I'm finding with ESL, though, which is interesting, is very run-of-the-mill things that we usually say when we broadcast are actually not okay on TV.
Nope.
So it's like,
not at all.
Thankfully, I didn't actually do any of that, but I got told to know in certain terms, you usually say this and you're not allowed to say this. So it's like, okay.
I think it's just because but the problem is, like, CSGO as a game has like a PEGI 16 rating.
Yeah, exactly.
Or is it PEGI 18? So technically you can, I mean, it depends on also what broadcast slot you're on, because if you're after 9 p.m., you can say whatever the fuck you want. But if you're before that, it's family time.
Well, I think the issue really, though, is the whole sort of, if it's on Twitch, it's pretty much a free-for-all. I mean, they're not going to really allow you to like go completely ham, but you can swear a little bit. You can, I mean, it's not the end of the world unless it's a major. But if it's on TV, that changes it. I mean, if you look at E-League, for instance, the way their broadcast style like really changed the way people broadcast CSGO, just because they had to broadcast to a TV audience where American TV is an amazing thing. People can get disemboweled, people can get all this crazy stuff can happen, but lest there be a swear word or anything like that on television, then it's bad. Except if it's HBO. If it's HBO, it's pussy and tits and fuck everyone. So.
But the thing is, like, as well, I mean, look at there are lines that you can sort of like tiptoe over sometimes in terms of like jokes. Like, you can make the odd joke if someone says something in game. Like, you often heard cricket commentators, someone holds up a sign or something like that, they laugh about it. Like there was one, I think the other day, that the camera panned over something about Zuma, I can't remember. Yeah. And like stuff like that. Like, you can't not laugh at that. You can't sit there as a broadcaster with a straight face and someone holds up a sign that says Zuma's a puss. That was it. Someone holds up a sign like that. You can't.
Oh man, I would have lost my shit if
I would have died if I saw that. And the cameraman who saw it, he must have been like, what have I done? I've literally just created the worst. But yeah, anyway, as I was saying, like, you in this community, like, there's a very, very rich history in this community, and all gaming communities, and there are a lot of guys who are outspoken figures in those communities, and for them to do anything and bring it down. And that's why I wrote that article yesterday, and I didn't even actually touch on any people who are prominent figures within communities and the kind of roles they play in those communities. But these communities, to some people, feel they are very toxic, and I'm not going to lie, they are. Some of the communities are terrible, and I mean, looking specifically at the Dota 2 community online, Dota. I'm not talking about the Facebook group, I'm talking about the people that play. There's a lot of racism. I'm talking bad shit, like really bad shit. And they do it because that's the kind of era we're in right now. It's funny, it's edgy, you're a memester, you're posting racial memes. Like people are in this, like, there's a whole subreddit, what I'm going to hell for, or something like that, where they post these kind of racial slurs, stuff like that. Like, this is the kind of time we live in right now, is that these are seen as, jokes and funny, and it's wrong. It's really wrong. And it's kind of, making excuses here for people who are being racist, but that's not my point. My point is that to come as an outsider right now into any of the gaming communities on the wrong platform. I'm saying, if you're going to go into a local South African game and try to start making friends with people in local pubs, you're going to get shit on.
You're going to get fucked.
You're going to get absolutely wrecked by people. If you go to an open chat platform like on Dota 2's Open Chat South Africa, again, you'll get one or two people being nice to you, but generally people are going to be dicks to you. If you go on Facebook, where there isn't that kind of veil where people hide behind, the online persona, if you go to an open platform like Facebook and you say, hello, everyone, I'm a new player, I really want to get into Dota, blah, blah, blah. I've watched some of the Bravado games. I'm a big fan of this, all that stuff. If you go do that, I can guarantee you one person might make a joke like, oh, dude, don't start playing now. You're going to get sucked in, go away, blah, blah, blah. Something like that, something joke like that. But 9 times out of 10, the comments are going to be helpful and constructive. Go watch this, go do this, play with this, play public matchmaking, move on to ranked in EU if you want to good enough. Like the comments are going to be sort of productive.
Because there isn't that sort of veil because
exactly,
it is you. You're on Facebook. People can see who you are.
Exactly. But now, obviously, the online world of you hide behind your nickname, you hide behind your handle, blah, 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 Twitter, Twitch, Steam, whatever, you hide behind that. That's a completely separate community. That's a very toxic, very, very bad community. But on Facebook and stuff like that, where these kind of communities are growing, and that was the basis of my article was Facebook. Is that League of Legends has a pretty good community. Battlefield is probably one of the best communities. Yes, they rant and rave and fight sometimes amongst each other, but they fight amongst each other. That's the main thing. No new people coming in there ever get blasted. The same with Dota 2. The same with CSGO. I mean, I saw a post today on the CSGO group about being a new player. And
I saw that one, yeah.
And the comments were good. And this is what I was trying to show yesterday in my arguments with people that from Critical Hit, people on Twitter. My point was that I'm looking specifically at Facebook. Any place that has any sense of anonymity. Well, when I say that word all of a sudden,
anonymity.
Anonymity. That word just completely escaped my vocabulary for a second there. If you go to any place like that where you don't know who you're talking to, people are going to be cunts. That's it. That's just the whole kind. That's the culture of being an online person. I do it. I'm not racist, but I do troll people. On Twitch chat, I make jokes, stuff like that. On Steam as well, when people never knows where I used to troll people. I never was racist. I never did all those things, but I used to troll people. But that's just the kind of world, the online thing. I'm not making excuses for them.
Well,
I'm not making excuses for myself.
Maybe I need to relay this a little bit so people can kind of understand where it can get to. So I play a lot of CS still, but I played mostly on Smurf accounts, so people don't know that it's me. And the reason I do that is because a lot of the time, I can go play like A maps and retakes and stuff, and people are cool and everything's cool. But if I go play matchmaking, then people will attempt to tilt me, or if I go play ESEA or whatever, people will attempt, drop comments and stuff. It doesn't really work that well on me, but the problem is I am actually a serious troll. So if you start trolling me, the amount of self-control it takes for me to not respond in kind or worse,
it's an easy trigger,
dude. What I do on my Smurf accounts is I should not, but basically I specialize in trolling people to the point that they leave so that my team can win.
You see, so you get what I'm saying. Okay,
yes, exactly. I'm okay. It's like this guy just said something to me. I'm like, now I'm fully in this. I'm gonna make you leave.
Okay, that's slightly more malicious than what I was talking about. But at the same time, as you get what I'm saying is that when you go into a place where no one knows who you are, being a dick is easy. But if you're on Facebook, I'm talking about these communities that are active, and I'm speaking specifically about Facebook. You don't often see people coming and being absolute cunts. Yes, one or two people do, but people are very, very, very quick to call those people out. Take, for example, the Barry and Lewis post that came up last week after Medal State, where that guy he was from Namibia or South Africa, who knows, but he was posting, and then he got banned afterwards. He said something that again touched on a lot of people's feelings, and a lot of people came out there and they spewed their passion about what they felt about the casting and stuff like that. And I even had my say. I said like Barry and Lewis weren't my cup of tea, but when I saw how many people appreciated their casting, a lot of new people to the game, and sometimes we need casters like that. We do need casters like that. We do need guys who can bridge that gap between making a game entertaining for noobs at the same time, but then finding that balance is really hard. That kind of balance, like you saw them do it on ESL and E-League, like you said, they had to kind of adapt to bringing on a whole new audience, and it takes a very, very experienced professional to be able to kill that, get that 100% correct, being both informative for your old fans and bringing in your new fans, and that's a skill that not a lot of people have. And someone made up a comment and they said that something like unprofessional or shit or or whatever they use. I can't remember the word they used, but it obviously brought out this like literally it brought out the worst in everybody throughout that post. Like everyone was just arguing and fighting about personal preferences and blah 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 blah. And Nate was getting pulled in. I'm sure you got pulled in as well. I mean,
I got named as the best, and then I got named as the worst because I got named.
I got pulled in and I gave my 2 cents and I just disabled notifications. And then when I went to go take a shit, I carried on reading. I love that. When you're on the toilet, you just read through drama on Facebook. I literally
look at the shit while you're taking a shit.
Yeah, just browse through all this stuff there, all this drama on Facebook. But yeah, that's the kind of thing. And people got touched. I mean, and I don't blame them because people were saying some really, really mean things. But at the same time, I mean, you look at these people and you have to kind of think like these people are saying things about you, but at the same time, there are people saying good things about you. Why are you letting the people saying bad things about you occupy that space in your head? Like, why not look at the 5 people that came on there and said, you know what? Their casting was okay. I enjoyed it. Why not focus on that? Why let other people come in and bring you down? I mean, you can hide those comments even. If you really want to, you can hide those comments and people don't have to see them and you don't have to see them. But at the same time, I mean, that's the kind of thing. That's something I guess maybe just a final statement on the whole, how do we deal with these people with these short fuses and hurt feelings? Is that a message to them would be like, you're doing what you're doing because you love it. And you're doing what you're doing because you think you're good at it, but there are also people out there that think you're good at it. When someone says something to you that you feel is incorrect and it's done you an injustice and you feel they're horribly incorrect on their opinion, you have to understand, again, that is their opinion. And if you let them occupy that space in your head, their idea of you will manifest and become who you are.
Yes.
When someone starts calling you shit as a player and you genuinely believe them, you're going to start playing shit. But if you don't let them occupy that space in your head and you rather allow the people around you, your teammates, your captains, your coaches, even your mom, your dad, who tell you that you're the best CSGO player in the world, you let that become you, and I promise you'll be such a better player. Yes, okay, you have to be big enough and man enough to put your feelings aside and notice your mistakes. If someone's giving you proper constructive criticism about your play style, about your aim, you have to take it like a man. But if someone's outright saying, oh, you're a terrible player, you can't let that rule you. You can't let that take completely over you. And then, then you see it. Then you're proving that person right by going to a game. Your head's not in the game because you're thinking about, this guy has now said publicly that I'm crap. Everyone's thinking I'm crap. Oh, look, I'm playing crap. And I think that's just a message for everyone. It comes to casters as well. Casters, players, writers, whoever you are. If you're going to allow people, I mean, that's the whole, I hate the saying, but that's the whole, fuck the haters kind of thing. That's the thing. Like, they're not haters. They're sometimes they're just too honest.
Yeah, well, I think in the modern world, people are, they find it very difficult to look at something and go, I don't like it or I do like it, and then not say something about it, because it's interesting, as you said, there's like, look at the Barry and Lewis situation. There's people who are saying they're bad. There's people who are saying they're good. There's people who are saying they enjoyed it, but it wasn't their cup of tea. There's people who are saying that it wasn't their cup of tea, but they didn't enjoy it. Everybody wants to say what they think, but, ultimately, a lot of it is just noise. It's... people do make a lot of noise around it. It's very hard to find what's actually constructive in it. And I think as a person, if you're talking as a player or as a caster or whatever, you need to be self-aware enough to look at it and go, well, this I can see in what I'm doing. I need to maybe adjust this, or this I can just see this person is trying to be malicious. I mean, of course, if you think too highly of yourself, it's probably also quite easy to look at it and go, well, no, fuck everybody. But, there has to be a balance in everything. And unfortunately, in the feedback stakes, the balance is usually towards the negative for most people. Because, I mean, look at anything that requires a public review, unless it's a product on a website where the owner of the website is actively deleting the negative stuff. Generally, there's more negative stuff. There's a reason why Hello Peter and those things exist. People are far quicker to pull the negative out than to pull the good out. That's always, it's just human nature. People like to complain, but they find it hard to give praise for when something is good. Yeah. So, it's a difficult situation because, as you say, you have all these hypersensitive people. You have everybody who's willing to give the criticism, but people who are not willing to receive it. But
can I tell you what it is? I mean, this is well, my final opinion on the whole matter. I'll tell you exactly what it is. And this is from stuff I've read, stuff I've watched, videos, whatever. Our generation, so guys from now 18 to that are now, I would say, our age, 24, 25, 26, whatever. Like, call them, I hate the word, we call them the millennials, right? We grew up in a stage, and I think this applies a lot to the younger guys as well. I think up till about age 20, guys born in the 90s that lived through the thousands when they were of a impressionable age, put it that way. We grew up in a society where our parents told us, everything was okay. It's good. You're a superstar, whatever.
You can do it. You're special, little Jimmy.
They butted you up. You can live out your dreams, and I think that became a place where anybody whose feelings were touched on or hurt in that time, they were like, my mommy thinks I'm the greatest and I'm the best. And then it gets to a point now we're looking at it sucks that esports is in this time that it is right now, because you have especially in this country, you grew up in this way that people had this mindset that I'm the best I can be. I'm being the best I can be. Bullshit. Be fucking better. Be the best in the world. Don't just be the best you can be. Be number one. But anyway, regardless of that,
I agree.
You have this generation of people that have grown up in a sense where their criticism is non-existent because they got a reward for coming 12th in a competition or something like that. They got an attendance award. Who the fuck cares about attendance? But anyway, you got awards for whatever you wanted. You got your parents praising you for every little thing you did. I'm not saying that's bad. I mean, I used to bring a test home and I got 95%. My dad would say to me, "Where's the other 5%?" That kind of stuff. I'm not saying my
that sounds like my dad.
Yeah, I'm not saying my upbringing was good. I'm not saying anyone else's upbringing was bad. But what I'm saying is, like, you're growing up with it, and now you have these people, you have these players who are online, and their faults, their pitfalls, their wrongdoings are now being broadcast to thousands of people, and people are talking about it. So your kind of safe space where your parents would pat you on the back and say, "Congratulations on coming 17th," that's not there anymore. You don't perform in a tournament, someone's going to bring it up. Someone's going to say something, and your parents aren't there to say, "Well done, good job," whatever, because their opinion doesn't matter to you anymore. You're now trying to impress fans that you've brought up. You're now trying to impress your teammates, stuff like that. So I think it's just an unfortunate generation that all of our stuff is literally put out online. Everything we do, everything we say, every game we play, anything we do is online, and leaves so much room for criticism. And I think that's the biggest thing as well with the CSGO scene, and why we have some people who are so touched by it, because this is it. It's a new thing completely for all of us. It's a new thing for all the players, and they're now in this environment where people are heavily critical of them because they are sort of the first batch. They're that first pancake that always comes out crap, if that makes sense. People are seeing them in the light for the first time, and they aren't mature enough. Some of them aren't mature enough to understand what that means for them personally, and some of them just don't care. I mean, how often I'll take the DC guys, for example. How often do people call them old and blah, blah, blah? You don't see them phoning up and being like, "Hey, stop calling me old." They take it in their stride because they're more mature. But then take the younger guys, look at the younger teams, not going to mention any names, but look at the younger guys.
He's terrible. He's having a horrible game. Phones you up and...
Yeah. You phones you up or messages you or Steam messages you or Facebook messages you or phones you, as you say.
It's the in-between age that would phone you. I mean, the really young ones are not going to actually use their real voice. They'll use their inside voice.
No, but
send you a message.
But we understand what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Is that you look at the DC guys, they take it in their stride. You look at the younger guys, they get heavily upset because mommy tells them they're good at what they do. And it's a very, very rough example of it, but it's the same kind of principle, that they've been buttered up and told that they're good enough, and as long as they try their best, and if they try your best and you lose, tough luck. No, if you try your best and you lose, you got to try harder next time. Why
make it happen for yourself?
Why is this team winning every tournament? Why is this team winning every match? Why is this guy consistently top fragging? That is because they want to. It's because they're hungry. It's because they can, and they know they can. And I said this when I was talking to someone, and they were asking me, like, why do Bravado keep beating Energy and other teams in the final? And it comes down to they just know they can. That's it. They're the better team because they know they can beat everyone else in the country. If you put doubt in their minds, and we've seen it before. We've seen people put doubt in Bravado's mind before, and they've lost the game.
Well, I think it happened yesterday, actually.
Oh, Bravado have a new roster. Oh, they change things up again. When they start doubting themselves, that's when Bravado lose. They don't lose because one player is having a bad day. If one player has a bad day on Bravado, another player steps up, and that kind of cancels it out. So Demi might not be firing that day, but oh God, here comes Elusive out of nowhere, and he's top fragging with 46 frags when usually he's the one doing the support role. But no, Demi's that's the thing with Bravado. But if you catch them on a day where they're unconfident and they're feeling like they're not themselves that day, that's when you will beat a Bravado. Very, very seldom. Very seldom. Maybe in the best of one or best of...
Yeah, very, very seldom. Well, last night's thing was really weird, wasn't it? With the sub, XD beats them.
Exactly. So I see there, not every single player on that team knew they could win. I'm saying that's the thing. Bravado, every single player on the Bravado side knows they are better than everyone else in the country. They might not be, but they know they are. If that makes sense.
Well, confidence is a large part of the equation always, and well-placed confidence, because of course you were just talking about that whole attitude of you're a special little Jimmy. That's misplaced confidence. You've got to have the work to back it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are certainly getting on in this video. I think we said to ourselves before we started, we're going to keep this short, and I think it's
We've done about an hour.
Oh no, a lot more than that, my good man. 1 hour and 38 minutes.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I think that's plenty. So I think we've covered a good variety of topics. We've covered a lot of your history as a person, as a caster, a journalist, somebody involved in esports. So I think it's been really good for the viewers. Is there anything else you want to add?
I saw, and obviously our little pre-game chat. You asked me, one of the questions was, would I get back into casting? Am I getting back into casting?
And
the answer is yes, I am. Very soon. Within the next month or so, I'll be doing a lot more casting. So that answers that final question.
Yeah, well, I must say from my side, before I was a caster, when I was a player, I remember watching some of your work and really enjoying it. I particularly remember a game where it went into some like ludicrous amount of rounds. I think,
me and Zero Chance did like 78 rounds.
Yeah, it was like on HLTV the next day that it was like the longest mirage ever.
Yeah, no, it was Inferno. He had to morning to milk the cows.
I just remember watching that and thinking to myself, like, I'm enjoying this game so much, but my eyes, I need to sleep.
I was half asleep, man. Like I said, Zero Chance had to be up at like 5 a.m. to like start his day on the farm at like. And I remember speaking to him the next day. He was like, "Yeah, I just literally got out and I just delegated to my work." I was like, he just delegated. He was like, "Go do this, go do that," and he just like, "I'm done for the day. That's it." But I will be getting into it very soon.
That's awesome, dude. But I mean, from my side, I just want to say, like watching you with Sadicus and the guys back then. To me, it was. I mean, again, as I was a player, I was young in esports. It was exciting to me. So I mean, although I'm older than you. I did take some inspiration from watching you do those awesome things, man. So
I appreciate it, man.
But hey, I really appreciate you joining us, guys who have watched this. If you stuck with us this long, thanks for watching. I'm Extremes. That's CongoKyle. You've been watching Looking Back. Axe out.